promote on the block page, man. Before I even get this shit started, man, make sure y'all hit that like, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, man. Not let it go right now. Hit the link in the description also.
Bad people in the neighborhood doing some bad things. There's no doubt about that. But it's also a neighborhood of
It's a good ass prosecutor, you feel me? I wouldn't mind hiring his ass as a lawyer.
Wear a certain facade. That's tough.
You feel me? Double his pay if I had it.
Probably because of
Get
the
on the
environment that
joint
they are
it.
growing up in and living in, they find that useful.
Oh,
But every single person from the neighborhood who came in here and testified, including Cowboy, showed that vulnerability that lies just beneath. They all got emotional in this case when talking about Nipsey Hussle. As much as they didn't want to show it, and you could tell they didn't want to show it, from Kerry Lathan, who was
the prosecutor
clearly
about
trying to avoid questions.
what he doing right now is, giving a rundown about the case.
Cowboy, Ingrid,
How everybody is showing emotion about Nipsey Hussle, everybody that was involved
they
in it.
all sort of had a moment of breakdown.
Everybody had a moment of breakdown, like, they was tearing up, they was sad, they had to
Now,
take a moment
Cowboy,
to, Nipsey Hussle, come on, man. You feel me?
you can't tell him anything. Talk about a gang expert. What gang expert is going to be better on the Rolling 60s than Herman Douglas? And I think you could tell from the character of his testimony that he's a straight shooter. He goes on Instagram and tells people, I don't care what you think about me and what I'm doing because I know I'm doing the right thing. You grow up in a neighborhood like this, the one we're talking about here, where the 60s claiming. I hate to use that because it doesn't belong to them.
On me. He said that where the 60s claiming, he hates to use that because they don't own it. But Nip did though. Yeah. Told my mama that's 160 that owned nigga the block, nigga. On the block, nigga. On the block, no.
Young men who grow up there learn, I think more than the average person, to be aware of suspicious behavior or anything that can be threatened.
Growing up in the hood, we learn more about being aware of and recognizing threats and all that shit. Being in the trenches like the military, nigga.
Anybody who wants to get a 60 will go to this area because that's where they'll likely find them.
He said anybody that's trying to get a 60, gangbanging, any of your enemies you trying to get, you gonna go to their hood and look for them. Period.
That day, that made him think for one moment that there was any hostility, or that Mr. Holder
The killer's moving silent, so
toward Nipsey Hussle.
it's like on some snake shit. Like when you know the ins and outs, niggas looking for threats, so you know not to show that
We
threat.
don't see the
You know what
hostility
niggas
in the
looking for, so you
video.
know to hide that.
The witnesses who were there and within earshot didn't hear or see any hostility.
Make sure y'all hit that like and that subscribe button too, and the notification bell too. And make sure y'all check out the link after this video.
Just wasn't there. Herman Douglas loved Nipsey Hussle. He still loves him. I think that came across very clearly. If nothing else, the way he dresses.
So while he addressing the fact that Herman Douglas, aka Cowboy, aka Big Thundercat, aka Nipsey Hussle, big homie, he did hit the stand. You feel me? So it's been a debate going on. Do y'all consider that snitching? I want to know y'all opinion.
He knows Nipsey doesn't have security. He knows he's not armed. He knows he's out there bare in front of the world. He wouldn't have allowed it. That's some of your best evidence that whatever this conversation was about, it wasn't provocative in nature. Ms. Nicholson goes back to her car.
Okay. Then you talk about how Brianita Nicholson, the female driver that brought Eric Holder there, the girl he was messing with.
Mr. Holder leaves that conversation. He goes back to the Master Burger.
Eric Holder, he leaves the conversation with this. He has to go back to the Master Burger.
Walks out to her car.
So peep how he never lets Nipsey Hussle know that him and the girl is together. Like from the time she walked up and took a picture, Till the time she walked back to the car, he went to the Master Burger.
Again.
Then he go back to the group again, shake their hand, shake everybody's hand except Nipsey Hussle.
They leave.
Man, on my mama, I know it's smoke. Man, it didn't happen to me before. I know it's smoke though.
There for about,
you feel me? And I know to pay attention at that point.
6 minutes total. And they leave out in her car, and she takes off, and she says she's ready to go, but he's giving the directions. This is not her city, it's his city.
So listen to how you break it down now.
Turn here, turn there, basically go around the block.
This is how you break it down now.
And she said he was acting normal, didn't say anything about Nipsey, he wasn't complaining, he didn't say anything like, who does he think he is? He doesn't own this city, he doesn't own this neighborhood, nothing like that. Said he seemed normal. But as she turned that block back on the Slauson, she saw him manipulating what she saw for the first time that day, the black semi-automatic handgun. It looked like he was putting bullets in the magazine.
He putting bullets in the magazine, he directed her to go around the block.
Alarmed that he was going to shoot either at her or out the car, she said, "You're not about to shoot
So she
from my
thought
car."
that he was going to
And he just kind of shrugs it
do
off.
a drive-by out the car.
He was already planning to kill Nipsey Hussle.
He was already
That's
planning
planning.
to kill Nipsey Hussle.
That's premeditation.
What's the deal, man?
That's thinking about it before.
So you know, checking out. This is like my second time checking it out, but
Already.
you know, sometimes you gotta listen and watch it over because you don't get everything the first time around.
Oh, go over here. I'm gonna eat my fries. So she drives behind that fat burger and into the alley. He starts eating his fries. He puts on his shirt for the first time.
Puts on a shirt for the first time that day. Why would you come out?
Because he knows he's going back. He's already planning that. There's no reason for him to walk around all day with no shirt on, get in the car, and then all of a sudden put the shirt on in the car.
Nah, the trial ain't
Putting
live.
that shirt on,
This like the closing argument.
gives him
It's on
whatever
YouTube.
element of surprise
Street TV,
he
street
gets.
television. That's where I'm watching it at on
The
his
thing
on his
is,
channel.
when you walk around with no shirt on,
When you walk around with no shirt
you
on,
look extra.
you look extra.
Right? People tend to notice you a little bit faster.
People tend to notice you a little bit faster, which is true. That's why I don't really like to have my shirt on. Cause you feel me? I like attention, but I don't like too much attention. You feel me? I'm just different. You feel me? I'm young.
And then the approach he took back to the group was to stay out of their view until he was right up on them.
The approach he took back to the group was to stay out of their view until he got up on them.
He walked back down the alley with his fries, placed them on the hood of a truck as he made his way around back to the strip mall. And he laid eyes on the group that was still congregated between those two cars.
That nigga walked up on them like you shake a nigga hand, they come back 5 minutes later and kill him. Like that's only some shit a nigga seen in the movies, bro. On my mama, like I think First Time Felon or was it? Or that movie was called Felon. He was like, "Hey, what's up, fool?" He kept seeing that nigga. "Hey, what's up?" Whatever that nigga name was. "Hey, what's up?"
He walks along the back side of it.
Then that last time he walked up, he killed that
Two
nigga.
guns.
I'm talking about the
One that
movie.
he likely had the whole time in his front pocket.
They said Eric Holder already had a gun in his front pocket when he walked up to the group on Nipsey
So now
Hussle.
we know he has two. Whether he had the other one the whole time, or whether it was somewhere in the car, we don't know.
On
We
me,
know
cold.
he has two at this point, and he's walking up on this group, having a Sunday conversation.
He was ready to
He has
crash
no
out.
idea.
Like he was ready to crash out on my mama. Like fuck life, fuck everything. I ain't got nothing to lose. That's why you niggas who ain't got nothing to lose, I stay away from you niggas. On my mama, I stay away from them niggas who ain't got nothing to lose. Cause a nigga who ain't got nothing to lose, will make you lose everything. Look, baby, look, they show the video. But watch how they break it down though. They show him running back. They tell you what he did, everything. I mean, and think about it. This is how I think. I really start really thinking like this. Look, All right, let's just say I'm a rapper and I got more than the next nigga. You feel me? I don't got no deal or nothing. That nigga ain't got no deal. You feel me? But I got more than him. Just like Nipsey Hussle had more than Eric Holder. You feel me? I can say some shit to a nigga. I never know. The nigga might want to kill me because I said some shit. Just because I got so much influence and what I say hurt a nigga heart that bad. You feel me?
And forgive me if I repeat myself. I have a tendency to get ahead of myself, but when he walked up to the
Oh, that's barbecue? That's barbecue,
he
baby?
said,
Listen, y'all. Hold on. I'm turning the lights on so y'all can see what the fuck going on.
He didn't say, I'm a
Ooh, baby did. Oh, baby did that.
He didn't say,
Hey, baby did that. Hey,
why
baby
you
did that.
talking
Hey,
about
baby did that. Hey, baby did that.
He didn't
Hey,
say,
she did
why
that.
you hate him.
Power of the mouth on me. So
Now,
now, before Nipsey got killed, Boozy already said, nigga, the place you get killed at is your own city, your own hood. Your own hood, nigga. Nipsey Hussle was rapping about this shit. He already planted a seed in my head years ago, because I've been a Nipsey Hussle fan.
you have Nipsey Hussle, who's a successful artist from the same neighborhood.
Listen what he said.
Mr. Holder, who's an unsuccessful
Here you have Mr. Nipsey, who's from the same hood as Eric Holder, a successful rapper, but Eric Holder is unsuccessful. And then he pull up to the parking lot, successful rapper, you unsuccessful, your bitch happy to see the nigga, more happy than when she wake up to you.
The motive for killing Nipsey Hussle had little or nothing to do with the conversation.
The motive to kill Nipsey Hussle had nothing to do with the conversation about paperwork.
Jealousy or envy.
It was already an existing jealousy or hatred for Nipsey Hussle. Think about that. Think about that, because he's successful. What is success? Having more, a better crib, more money, a nicer car, a better woman on your side, more opportunities, more fame, more popularity. I got a lot more than that than a lot of niggas, you feel me? And I ain't even big as Nipsey Hussle, but I'm forward thinking, because we only gonna grow. So you niggas that don't want nothing, I stay away from, on my mama.
Sometimes motive is obvious in a crime, sometimes it's not. There's some indications here of motive though, and you're free to agree or disagree with what I say about this. But ever telling Miss Nicholson
Good looking, good looking.
that he knows Nipsey Hussle, especially when she points out that she's excited to meet him,
So think about this.
and making no comment.
Your girl excited to see your homie that's a rapper from his hood. Why you ain't say that's the homie? Bro, I can introduce you to him. Nigga, you're separation, that's the homie. We grew up together, we rolled, we did all kinds of shit together, baby. I listen. You could be that nigga that way, nigga, because hating ain't gonna get you nowhere, nigga. On my mama, hating don't get a nigga nowhere. What hating got Eric Holder?
That wasn't based on some
Up in that courtroom, nigga. On my mama, up in that courtroom world, know you a hater now, nigga.
Counsel can disagree, but that's the evidence that we heard in the case.
Bad, they said
When you watch this,
shoot the
again,
barbecue
I'm gonna
recipe.
play it across a little bit more.
She made some ribs. I think it's some ribs, chicken in there. We got hot links and hot dogs. Man, my baby does her thing. I swear to God. Nope. Ribs and chicken. That's it. Oh, ribs and chicken, no hot dogs. I was adding chili.
You see Nipsey reach. He sees it first. Everybody else is still sitting.
Nipsey Hussle was the first person to see the gun.
Firing. Nipsey drops first.
They said the first shot, first couple of shots,
it is likely that
severed his spine.
Second shot.
First and second shot severed his spine.
Because once he goes down.
So even if he would have survived, he would have been paralyzed. That's fucked up, man. That's my favorite rapper, bro.
And he is living through being shot over and over again, because you can see as he's on the ground, he can't move his legs, but he can still move his arm, and he's holding like his arm up.
It's crazy that
he's shot over and over.
Listen, what's that song
After
called?
he goes down,
Go listen to that song by Nipsey Hussle called All for the Dough. On my mom, I'm gonna react to that shit. He broke it. Nipsey Hussle knew that he would get killed in front of his store. Years ago, he knew that it would be his own homies to do it. I swear to God, he knew. He rapped about it before it happened. And I wouldn't say he spoke it into existence. It's just like common sense. Like niggas be hating that hard. Like niggas be that mad at niggas because niggas got more than them. Like nigga, I got more money than you possibly. I got more materialistic things. Probably get more love, but we got the same 24 hours though. Nigga, you better go out there and put that effort in, nigga. Stop hating me.
Over there, I submit to you.
On my mama.
Everybody that was in that space. And I tell you why.
My dog knocked out.
Because he doesn't know who else might be packing. He knew when he left the parking lot and started loading his gun that he wasn't out there by himself. He knew that there were people around him. He doesn't know who's armed and who's not armed. So when he goes back,
that part too. We bleed the same, you feel me?
Because he doesn't know what kind of resistance he's going to.
You see this way?
But he knows he's going to take out everybody right there to make sure that he doesn't get shot and that he has an opportunity.
That part right there, bro. These niggas, I know they got record deals, all that shit, nigga. You feel me? I ain't mad at them, nigga. I'm still out here grinding, nigga. I can afford to live the lifestyle that I've been living, nigga, whether deal or not. Nigga, you feel me? So that shit don't. You feel me? I tilt my hat to him, but you know, I ain't mad at him. Cause we all got the same 24. Everybody get their time to shine. It's a million different ways you can shine too. Majority of the people I know, I swear to God, I'm like a Nipsey Hussle. I swear to God, because you feel me? It's a lot of people that may have given credit to Nipsey Hussle, may have not, for inspiring them and motivating them. I inspire and motivate a lot of motherfuckers to do a lot of shit, and whether they give me credit or not, it don't even matter. You feel me? But because that's. Like Nipsey Hussle said, the strongest human, the most highest human act is to have an impact. You feel me? On my mama, on someone's life, to inspire. The highest human act is to inspire. So yeah, that's what I'm here for. You feel me? On the block move.
Now, when you watch this, you'll see when Holder fires his first few shots, he starts to run from between the cars. He backs out of there because he doesn't know if there's going to be bullets coming his way. I mean, this is Rolling 60s sort of meeting place.
I mean,
the fact that no one out there had a gun that day is a little surprising. But the
prosecutor said, you know, it did happen in Rolling 60s neighborhood. So the fact that nobody had a gun out there, you feel me, is surprising. Even the prosecutor knows somebody should have been out there strapped.
He shoots 13 shots, maybe 14, we don't know exactly, because we don't know how many he started.
But think about how accessible Malcolm X was. That's why Nipsey Hussle knew he was going to pass. Now that I think about it, if y'all ain't watched the Malcolm X movie, y'all need to watch that shit.
Then he flees.
Man, they said you eat that fire food before you're cold. Now we're going to just throw it back in the oven. You feel me?
Christian Johnson is scared for his life down on the floor. And we can at least see the revolver in his hand as he runs by.
I'm finna light this fire weed first. I'm finna put this smoke in the air.
Say a word about Christian Johnson and some of the other ways. I think it was Mr. Douglas who said, video tells the whole story. The video tells, if all you had is the video in this case, you would know Eric Holder ambushed this group of men and shot shot and killed Nipsey Hussle in cold blood. The video tells you that. You don't need a witness to tell you anything. But I did call some witnesses because
Good looking, man. Have a good night, man. Good looking.
it's my
Thanks
prerogative.
for tuning in, too.
But I also thought as jurors, you're gonna see some people and might wonder who they are or what they saw or heard. So for example, Mr. Johnson,
You got.
he was in the Master Burger with Holder. He was there during some conversation between Holder and some young women.
You think you'll pack a blunt, sir?
Did I need to call him as a
I bought
witness?
5 packs. It's only.
No, he didn't really advance the ball much, but he was
Oh, yeah, I
there.
know what happened. We smoked 4.
And he was willing to
Smoke
come
full blunt.
forward, and he was willing to tell you what little he saw and heard.
That's love, man. Good looking.
Same thing with Danae Wright. You remember Danae Wright? She was the woman who jumps out of her car and starts running. Then she runs back to the car and she runs again. When I saw the video, I noticed that. And I wondered, why is she running back and forth to the car? You don't realize from just watching the video that she has a child or children inside that car. And what a terrible thing it must be to be a parent in that situation. Right? Because we all would like to think that if we were in that situation, we would never leave our kids, right? But you just never know how life will put you in situations where you can't rehearse for this. Do I run? Do I hold my kids? Do I go back? Do I stay? I just don't, I can't even imagine what that was like for her. So this crime, these bullets just didn't kill Nipsey Hussle and injure Shermai and Lathan. These bullets traumatized the whole community. Crimes like this, the enormity of these crimes is that they can't be contained. Even as bad as it is, murder is, attempted murder is, assault with a firearm, as bad as those crimes are, there are a lot of unnamed victims in this. And the bullets land either in a person or they hit a wall, they stop. But in a figurative sense, these bullets are still traveling. This neighborhood has not forgotten. And that's part of the enormity of the crime. Mr. Holder turned the corner, and we get a look at both guns, one in each hand, as he runs by, I think that's camera 21. Let me see if I can show that. And he's already on his way back to Ms. Nicholson's car, where he had her leave it because he knew
It's a black case, period.
what he was about to
Both
do
lawyers black.
and where he wanted that car
Suspect
to
and the
be.
victim black.
He wanted it to
The
be
lady right
ready
there
to
typing
go.
black. The witness
Basically,
is black.
he ate place, ready to get out of there. He knew when he got out of that car with his friend.
This one time they like, we gonna let y'all do it on your own. Just that one time, the white folks said, listen, we're gonna let y'all be the, we're gonna let y'all rule for your own. It's nothing but black people in that courtroom. From the lawyers to the judge, nigga, to the typers,
Okay, it means you think about
to the
it
suspects and the
and
victims.
you do it. We
Black
all
folk.
engage in premeditated and deliberate acts every day. Some of the most ordinary decisions we make
The jurors, it's diverse though.
involve thinking about
Different
what
races.
we're doing, consequences, and then doing it. Crime is no different. He started thinking about this well ahead of actually pulling the trigger. And he could have stopped at any time. When she said, "What are you doing with that gun?" he could have changed his mind. He did. When she parked behind the Fat Burger, he could have said, you know what, let's go. He didn't. As he's walking down the alley, calmly, with his french fries, he could have changed his mind and went back, but he didn't. When he turned the corner and he saw that Nipsey Hussle was sitting there with...
Should I just realize that shit right now?
He didn't know.
Hey, that prosecutor don't look like Draco the Ruler to y'all?
He could have changed his mind, but he didn't. That's what it means to premeditate and deliberate on that. So
to premeditate a murder is to think about the murder before you do it. Like, you think it through. Like, I'm finna go kill this motherfucker. Like, you feel me? And you do it, that's premeditated. That's murder one. They trying to get it dropped to manslaughter though. The defense is not the prosecutor. He's trying to convict them for murder one.
Place. We've got a little bit of video of that. Now, Ms. Nicholson said she heard the shot. She was about to leave. She didn't know what was going on. And we see her kind of inching out.
Yeah, I seen that shit. I seen that shit too.
He eventually gets to the
From
car.
Mo 3 to what? Young Dolph.
She takes off.
Who else? See, I think even Slim 400 was with Empire. I'm not sure though.
You know from the evidence, we took a long, hard look at Ms. Nicholson. Not that she knew that Nipsey Hussle was going to get shot, but look at her behavior after the shooting. She heard gunshots. She saw him with a gun. He comes back with 2 guns. Later, she hears Nipsey Hussle got shot. She knows they were there. The question arises when she
Juice WRLD, damn.
allowed him to stay at her mother's
damn.
house.
It's crazy.
When she let him use her ID to get a room the next day. Was she doing that to assist him in evading the police? Right, so natural question that you would want to take a long, hard look at. Because that question existed, and she was being called to testify, both at the grand jury and here, it raises the question of what her rights are under the law. She doesn't know her rights, unless you tell her. So before she was interviewed by Mr. Washington, he told her, if these are your
that's crazy. All of
them. These rights and agree to talk to us. She said yes. 5 hours. No, I need a break now. I want a lawyer.
But you know, King Von's situation, he had a fight with Quando.
And then later, she was asked to meet
them all Empire artists, and they was murdered. That's fucked up. Like Empire is cursed or something.
Another 2 hours. We got to the grand jury. You know from the evidence that I initiated the immunity agreement with her. Because
that's probably why Mozzie hurry up and said fuck Empire and went to CMG. He got smart on their ass. Man, Mozzie got smart on their ass.
Make sure that the witness has a lawyer and understands
he been smart, but
that she has a right to request immunity. She didn't know she had the right to request that, and she never did until she was told. So we granted her what's called use immunity. Use immunity means we're giving you immunity for what you're going to say in this limited place. Not transactional immunity, which is immunity against ever prosecuting you. It's a broader immunity. We're just going to immunize the statements that you make in court. We already had 7 hours of interviews with her, statements from her. If we were going to prosecute her, we already had the evidence to do it. But the decision was made, and she was never charged with any crime, because you may not see it the same way. But I'm taking time to say this. She's not on trial here, obviously, but I'm taking the time to say this because I think it's important. In listening to her testify and how she processes information and how she makes decisions, she, whether it was willful neglect or willful blindness, she was honest when she said, I really wasn't convinced he did it until I saw it on the news. I suspect many people, the moment he came running back to that car, would have been highly suspicious. And certainly by the time they got home and saw on social media that Nipsey Hussle was shot, many people would have put two and two together at that moment. I don't think she did. And I think that comes across in the evidence. That she really wasn't convinced until she saw a news report. That's either here nor there. But I took the time to say that because I wanted to explain what the immunity was all about. If you had any questions about that. What was impressive about her is she immediately gave up her phone. And not just here, you can look at my phone. You can extract all the data from my phone. You think about how much personal information we all have on our phones. It's probably making some of you uncomfortable to even think that somebody could go in your phone and extract all the data. All the photos, text messages, photos.
We got Draco in the courtroom.
It was impressive that without knowing that was coming, she said yes. Search my car, search my apartment, search my mom's house. And we did. And after doing our due diligence, she got the agreement that we gave her, and you heard her testimony, which is the most important thing. They hightailed it back to Long Beach. Meanwhile, pandemonium is breaking out on the floor. Two versions of this video. I did not intend to include that one. But that's the video that you heard earlier at the trial. Or you saw earlier in the trial. You didn't hear it because I didn't like the sound effects that was included there. And included it. But the point is that as they're rushing back to Long Beach, Nipsey Hussle is dying, if not already dead, in the parking lot that he owned. And Kerry Lathan, poor Kerry, nobody's paying much attention to him as he's on the ground, unable to move, in pain. And Shermai, of course, has the bloody torso from, just think about how rough he is. He believes he pointed out the bullet that hit him. I don't know, if that is possible, but he got hit, and the way bullets fly, it didn't penetrate him, but he had a hole in his shirt, a hole in his belt, and he's very, very fortunate he didn't have a hole in his gut, because that very well could have killed him or caused him a lifelong agony, pain, and whatnot. Eric Holder did all of this to a neighborhood that he didn't live in for quite some time. We don't know exactly when he left the neighborhood, but he wasn't living here anymore. Which also kind of raises the question, why would he care what rumors are going around about him in the neighborhood where he doesn't even live? Okay, he hardly comes around. Nobody's seen him in a long time. So how could a rumor inspire so much rage in a person to justify a manslaughter. You know, it's like he said to Nipsey when Nipsey was telling him that this was going around. What did he say? He said, oh man, they just haters. It's haters. He just brushed it off because it's not a big deal. We know it's not a big deal because the defense's own gang expert testified that it's not a big deal. These things happen all the time in the hood. There's always rumors going around. It's a rumor mill. And when they do happen, there's a way to deal with it. And how did he say it's dealt with? The same way that Herman Douglas said it's dealt with. You get confronted that there's something going on. Okay, let me take care of it. Let me show you that I didn't do that. All the time. Ordinary. Not extraordinary. Charges. The judge gave you a lot of laws. We're going to talk about the law, especially the law of being passion. But let's get the charges clear. Count one is murder. We're going to get into the definition of murder a little bit, but basically, murder is of 2 degrees. And the best way to think about murder is, think of it this way. All murder, by default, is 2nd-degree murder, unless something makes it 1st degree. What makes this murder 1st degree is premeditation and deliberation. A murder with premeditation and deliberation makes murder 1st-degree murder. There are other things that will make a murder 1st degree, but they don't apply here. Shooting from a moving vehicle would make a murder a 1st-degree murder. And there are other things, but here we're relying on premeditation and deliberation. Counts 2 and 3 go to victim Carrie Lathan. We allege in count 2 that Mr. Holder is guilty of attempted murder of Carrie Lathan. We also allege that he's guilty of assault with a firearm. These charges cover the same conduct. Same conduct charged in 2 different ways. They both define distinct crimes. You'll be asked to reach a verdict if you can on both counts. Don't worry about the fact that they overlap or they point to the same conduct. That's contemplated, and that's for the judge to worry about. If he's convicted of both, the judge knows how to handle that. But we charged him with attempted murder because, as I told you, the evidence shows that he went over there willing and intending to kill everybody in that space. Nipsey was clearly his target, but he was intending to kill everybody or chase them away if they happened to get away, and they did. Attempted murder is when a person takes a direct step toward killing another person. That's what it requires. A direct step, more than mere planning. So let's say Eric Holder got his guns, he got out of Brian Nita's car, and he started walking over to the mall, intending to kill, and then changed his mind back to the car. Before he pulled the gun on anybody, before he pointed it, before he pulled the trigger. The question is that attempted murder because he had the intent to kill, but did he take a direct step toward killing? Probably not. Not if he shuts it down in an alley and goes back to the car. So far removed from actually carrying out the act. But once you point a gun at somebody and you pull the trigger, you've taken more than a direct step toward carrying out that act. The law doesn't require that the gun be fired. Attempted murder does not require that a victim be injured at all. The focus is on the conduct of the perpetrator. Did he have the intent to kill, and did he take a direct step toward killing? We submit to you he did in the cases of Shermine and Layton. No better evidence of that than he shot both of them. He actually shot both of them. Assault with a firearm, you point a gun at somebody, it's the assault is completed as soon as you point the gun at them. You know, whether you would intend to fire it or not. It's a moment. So,
Point a gun at somebody, that's assault.
the intended murder, I know you will grapple with that. You go through the facts, look at the video, understand the context of the situation. And I'm confident that you're going to agree that when he went over there, he was intending to kill anybody that was there. And the only reason he did it is because Lathan went down, became a non-threat. Shermai ran away after getting hit, turned the corner, became a non-threat. And Renthal took off across the parking lot, never to be seen again. I mean, literally, well, he was seen again, because we heard he was interviewed. But he didn't come to court to testify. Now, that's probably the one witness that if I could have produced him, would have produced him, because he was also there during the conversation. But we tried. So counts 2 and 3, counts 4 and 5, same counts, but instead of Lathan, they're aimed at Shermai. Shermai is convicted of these 2 counts, but it's the same concept for him. In count 6 is felon with firearm. Mr. Holder had previously been convicted of a felon. As a convicted felon, he could not possess a firearm, and we know on this day he possessed not 1 but 2 firearms.
Yeah, couple of cases.
So I know the judge read a lot of instructions to you, and it sounded very complicated. But by the time I'm done, I hope
This nigga about to be a light.
okay, this is manageable. We understand what the prosecution's theory is here in this case. 1 count of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder for each victim, 2 counts of assault for the same 2 victims, and 1 count of felon with firearm. Some of the law I've already talked about, so I can go through this quickly. But it looks like it's lunchtime. So what do you want to do?
Will you be finished in 5 minutes?
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, check out
Yes, good afternoon. At the break, I wanted to go through some law with you, so let's do that, and I'll try and do it quickly. And the good news is I've talked about some of this law already. So I should be able to advance through some of these slides without much time. And my technology is not working.
Once again, I haven't done anything with this.
Let's see if we can do this. All right, so as you've been told by the judge, and I mentioned this also, all available evidence is not required in the trial. So there may have been people in that parking lot that I didn't call. You shouldn't speculate about why they weren't called. It's my job to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt, and I call the witnesses that I think fairly can testify about the things that you need to know to make a decision. So all available evidence is not required. Also motive, we talked about this. Motive is not an element of the crime and need not be shown. And so in this case, I do think there is some evidence of motive. Obviously there was a conversation that preceded the killing. That conversation was fairly unremarkable. And there were other things about Nipsey Hussle's fame and his love in his neighborhood that Mr. Holder did not enjoy, that I previously argued, I think played a role in why he did what he did. Murder. is a crime that is very, very simply defined. It happens when a person commits an act that causes the death of another person. And the defendant or the perpetrator acts with what we call malice aforethought, which is simply defined as an intent to kill. And there's two types of malice in the law. There's express malice and implied malice. Obviously, in this case, based on these facts, we have evidence of express malice. Shooting somebody with a gun multiple times, that can't be anything other than an expression of express malice. Once you have those two elements, you have murder. I told you murder is defined in 2 degrees. The default is second-degree murder. Unlawful killing, express malice, no deliberation or premeditation, it's second-degree murder. On the other hand, where you have an intentional act that is committed after an opportunity to weigh and think about what one is about to do, it becomes a willful, deliberate, and premeditated murder. And that's what we have here. Some murders are spontaneous. They happen quickly without much thought. Typical example is a barroom fight. 2 guys go to a bar, they're having a good time. One disrespects the other, and 2 seconds later, a beer stein is being slammed into somebody's head and kills him. Okay, there's no opportunity for any real deliberation or premeditation in that act. You're going to have a default second-degree murder. Unlike these circumstances where Mr. Holder had plenty of time, a full 10 minutes passed after that conversation and the time he returned and committed the shooting. And we know in that time he prepared his gun, he armed himself with a second gun, and all of the facts that I discussed earlier this morning. Plenty of evidence of premeditation and deliberation. Again, it does not take a long time. Premeditation and deliberation is not measured by how much time somebody spends thinking about it. A cold, calculated decision to kill can be reached very quickly. The law recognizes that. In this case, you had quite a bit of time for premeditation and deliberation. 10 minutes is a long time to think about something and then do it. Now, this instruction here, heat of passion, and this is where the defense is going to argue to you that this cold-blooded, this cold and calculated killing should be mitigated. And the theory that you're going to hear is it should be mitigated because Nipsey Hussle himself provoked Mr. Holder to attack him. That Nipsey Hussle did something that was so powerful, it caused an almost irresistible response in Mr. Holder to kill him. That's what heat of passion is. That's how it's defined in the law. The judge gave you an instruction. It's 3 pages long. Let me give you some language from the instruction. To reduce an unlawful killing from murder to manslaughter upon the ground of sudden quarrel or heat of passion, the provocation must be of the character and degree as would naturally excite and arouse the passion, and the assailant must act under the influence of that sudden quarrel or heat of passion. Elsewhere in the instruction, the question to be answered is whether or not at the time of the killing, the reason of the accused was obscured or disturbed by passion to such an extent as would cause the ordinarily reasonable person of average disposition to act rashly and without deliberation and reflection, and from passion rather than from judgment. What is an example of the heat of passion that these instructions contemplate? I'll give you an example. Let's say hypothetically, a parent comes home from work and goes up to the bedroom of her 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 14-year-old child and finds an adult in the bed doing sexual activities with that child. And in that moment, that parent becomes blind with rage and attacks that older person and kills him. The question at that person's trial would be reasonably whether or not that person acted at the heat of passion. That person in the bed with her child provoked her to act rashly and without judgment. Those are the kinds of facts that we're talking about when we talk about heat of passion. A classic example is adultery. Spouse comes home and finds partner in bed with another person. And without thinking, without considering, reaches for something, kills one or the other or both. It's always almost immediate. It's almost always a product of blind rage. There is no consideration in a true heat of passion killing. Compare and contrast those facts with what we have here. Under those facts, that provocation is so powerful that it can move a reasonable person of ordinary disposition to act rashly and violently. Contrast those facts to what we have here. A conversation in which Nipsey Hussle is actually doing this to Holder a favor. Never called him a snitch. There's no evidence he ever called him a snitch. Yet two people witnessed that conversation. No one said Nipsey called him a snitch. And even if he had, snitching is so common. You heard from multiple gang experts, including one called by the defense, that people talk in the hood all the time. And they talk to police officers all the time. There's paperwork abound. It's not uncommon. It's not the kind of thing, even being accused of being a snitch is not the kind of thing that would move a reasonable person to kill. It just is. It might make you mad. It might make you angry. But it's not going to move an ordinary person of reasonable, average disposition to kill.
Objection. It states the law.
Ladies and gentlemen, as I've indicated in the beginning of the case, and I did with the bulk of my instructions, the lawyer follows is that which I give you. All right? So the attorneys may misquote, you may repeat it exactly, but what you follow is what I give you. All right? Maybe
Thank you. I just read some of the instructions to you. You'll have it. I submit to you that the heat of passion destruction is limited to explicitly defined circumstances that would move a reasonable person of average disposition to act rashly. Not the reasonable gang member, the reasonable person. I'll give you another example. Getting fired is not a pleasant thing. People get fired all the time. The heat of passion destruction is limited to explicitly defined circumstances that would move a reasonable person of average disposition to act rashly. Not the reasonable gang member, the reasonable person. I'll give you another example. Getting fired is not a pleasant thing. People get fired all the time. And it causes a range of emotions, from sadness to disappointment to anger. Reasonable people who get fired do not kill the person who fired, even though it's not a pleasant thing to be told you don't have a job anymore.
Objection.
So what we're talking about...
No, excuse me. As I just said, basically, the law is as I gave it to you, and only as I gave it to you. All right?
approach?
Yes, you may.
The law is only as I gave it to you. Only the law is as I gave it to you. Only as I gave it to you.
You're right.
Thank you. We're talking about the kind of provocative act that will cause a person to be consumed by rage. So much so that their whole thought process is obscured. We don't have that. We have a step-by-step, methodically carried out plan to return to that parking lot and kill. It's not done in the heat of passion. In fact, it's done 10 minutes after the conversation. In fact, it's done after he shakes Nipsey Hussle's hand when he walks away. Counsel through his questioning suggested that when Eric Holder walked over to that group for the first time and shook everybody's hand, he walked away without shaking Nipsey's hand. Not true. When you watch the video, you'll see he shook everybody's hand before he walked away. Now, when he returned with his food, Nipsey was already in a different area talking to someone else, and his client shook hands with the people who were closest to him, and he left again. Okay? This is a man who leaves a conversation talking about his CD, not about snitching, not about having hurt feelings. He's talking about his music. Shakes everybody's hand, goes and gets food, gets in a car and leaves. Drives around the block, parks the car, eats some food, put on a shirt. He's not consumed by rage. Matter of fact, at one point he was in a Master Burger giving his phone number to another girl who's in the Master Burger. And this is after he's supposedly consumed by rage. No way do these facts support a heat of passion mitigation verdict in this case. And even if, and it pains me to ask you to assume this, but even if you felt that Nipsey Hussle did something to provoke him, there's a cooling off period. Even if you thought that that conversation was enough to throw a person into this excited and irresistible emotional state, he left. He left for 10 minutes. 10 minutes is a long time. It's a short time period of time. It's also a long time for what we're talking about in this context. If I ask you to just take 10 minutes and I stop talking and we waited 10 minutes, you see how long 10 minutes is. It's actually quite a long period of time to be in your thoughts. So, to the extent that counsel asks you to find his client guilty of voluntary manslaughter instead of first-degree murder because of this, you should reject it. And you should reject it on the strength of his own witness's testimony. Let's go through a couple of things that his expert said yesterday. So we're talking about so-called snitching. which is supposed to be, you know, this thing that nobody does, and if they do it, people get killed when they do it, which I think has been thoroughly disproven. This is for Mr. Freeman. Question. And it is surprising, isn't it, how forthcoming gang members are with information? Answer. Same way they are on the streets. Question. Talk all the time? Answer. Talk all the time. All the time. Talk to police, talk to whomever, talk to each other. Just full of talk. Some of it true, some of it not true. But this notion that nobody snitches or nobody tells, you know from this case isn't true. How many people talked to the police about what happened that day? How many people testified at the grand jury? How many people have come to court? And nothing has happened to any of them. And in fact, Mr. Freeman said, what, he talked to hundreds, thousands of people? I forget what the number was. Over his 26 years, no one ever got killed from talking to him about a case. Is it possible? Yes. Does it happen occasionally? Yes. But that doesn't make it such that a reasonable person of ordinary disposition, when simply warned that other people are saying this about you, would be moved to act rashly. What else did Mr. Freeman say? Here at the bottom of this transcript, the question was, there are a lot of rumors that go around the neighborhood about different people, correct? Answer, that rumors is the first thing you have to deal with. Question, it's just a rumor. Answer, yes, right. And when there is a rumor going around about a gang member, you know, somebody puts some dirt on his rep, right? And then I gave an example, saying that maybe he was seen talking to the police, and then a rumor started. Does that gang member have an opportunity to address that rumor or rumors like that? There was an objection, overruled, and the witness said, now when you say opportunity, are you saying he can come to the gang if I'm sure he's going to hear about the rumor, so yeah, he does have the opportunity to face it. Question, okay, so it is not uncommon when there are rumors going around about somebody for a person to hear about it and then address it. Answer, that's correct. Question, that happens all the time. Answer, yes. Question, and in addressing that rumor, that person can do anything from deny it to go and get some kind of document and present it and say, look, that's a rumor. Look what the police report says. Defendant 2 did not give a statement. Answer, that's correct. Question, happens often? Answer, yes. And there are other examples in Mr. Freeman's testimony. I'll just give one more. And I asked him, you reviewed material in this case. Hypothetically, well, let me go to what you reviewed. You reviewed material that there was a conversation between Nipsey Hussle and Mr. Holder in which Nipsey Hussle told him that there was some word on the street that he had been talking or giving information. That there was some paperwork that he hadn't seen himself, but he just wanted him to know that was out there. Did you see that? Mr. Freeman said, yes, I did. Question, okay. That kind of an admonition or warning or advice or whatever label you want to put on it is common in the hood amongst homies, amongst friends. Is that correct? Answer, yes. This is common, ordinary stuff. Question. And the expectation, if any, the person telling the other person that may not care what happens, but the expectation is, I want you to know this, so if you want to address it, you can. So you don't get caught slipping. You don't get caught off guard not knowing this is going around. Wouldn't you agree? Answer, I agree. So to the extent that someone tries to tell you that one homie telling the other homie, hey, this rumor's going around about you, is some kind of outrageous, provocative act that's so slanderous that it throws somebody out of their right way of thinking, is nonsense. And it comes from the witness, the defense called to the stand. It's also buttressed by the witness I called, Gaxiola. Between Gaxiola and Mr. Freeman, they have almost 50 years of experience in dealing with gang culture. And both of them said the same thing. These rumors are common. Getting severely hurt or killed is rare. It is not the kind of thing that belongs in a realistic discussion about heat of passion. Heat of passion is for that child molester who's molesting somebody's child, and that person loses it, it kills them. That's what heat of passion is for, not for this. Can you switch me back? I want to show you a video that I put together. I put together a compilation of clips. I believe that's what this is. Let me check. Okay, I put together a compilation of clips. We're going to look at all the video we have in sequence from Mr. Holder's arrival to the shooting. And I want you to see at no time is he acting out in a rage or acting uncontrollable or showing any signs of any extreme anger or that his emotions have overcome his reason. Okay. Let me do this. Let me tell you where we're starting from. This video is going to start from the end of that conversation. That first conversation. He has walked over to the group. He's in the group. Brianita has already come over and taken her picture and gone back to her car. And this is how the conversation ends. You're going to see Mr. Holder shake hands, slap hands, bump fists with everybody in this group, including Nipsey Hussle. That's how that conversation ended, after he discussed whether they had occurred in season. And then he walks away and we'll follow him throughout the season. Right there is where he bumps fists with Nipsey, Cowboy, and then he walks away.
He didn't want them to know that. He was going to that car.
goes back into the master bird.
He don't look upset, huh?
Christian Johnson.
He facing though. You thinking about it right now, like.
He walks out, goes over to Miss Nicholson's car to get some more money.
At that moment, you start thinking about it. You're looking at him, huh? That nigga right there, Rip Paul, he watching that nigga.
The guys walk by.
He watching.
He had some words with him, slapped hands. Gets his money from Miss Nicholson. Goes back to the master bird. Gets his food.
That's a good question. It could have been a nigga that called him and told him he did. So he's thinking about running up,
Pays
man.
for a drink. Two girls come in. He talks to them. She takes out her phone. Here's that. Three.
Once they
Stops
saw,
and talks to her.
once they saw this, if she wasn't telling, she was going to tell it after this video.
And then he walks out. When he walks out, he goes back over to the group.
He playing out the scene right here, look. He seen how they didn't notice him when he walked up this time until he got there.
And you can see at this point, Nipsey's over talking to someone else. He's not in that immediate area. It's not even clear Nipsey would have even seen him come back. But he daps it up with a couple of
But she can move his parking spot over here.
We leave the party.
Same way you just walked up on him from the master burger the first time.
Of course, the next time you see him, it's a clip that you've seen many times. He does the shoot. About 10 minutes after the end of that first conversation where he's supposedly thrown into this highly emotional state. Here's the flow chart on a true Peter Passion film. You have a provocation, which we don't have in this case, but it's required. The victim has to do something to provoke the assailant. And that provocation has to be of such character and degree to excite passion in a reasonable person. You know? The killing has to be done rashly without thinking, and while the person is still under the influence of this provocation. Again, walking into a bedroom, seeing something, and acting immediately, without thinking. Not driving away and driving around the block and getting your gun ready and all that nonsense. It has to be something that would move an ordinary person to act rationally. The defendant is not permitted to set up his own standard. It's not a subjective test. It's an objective test. Whether a reasonable person would act this way, not the defendant. And again, no cooling off periods, which even if you had a provocative attitude, you have plenty of time for him to cool off from it. Eat his fries, and go back to Long Beach and make some music. Nevertheless, the defense will probably make that argument to you. We'll see. A couple other instructions, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to be done. I wanted to talk a little bit more about whatever reason I can't get my computer to behave today. So I'm just going to just go back. We talked about attempted murder. And the attempted murder is really predicated on, as I said earlier, a desire to kill everybody in that group. The target is Nipsey for sure. That's who he really wants. But he's got to account for the other people who are there. And that's why he shoots them. He doesn't shoot them by accident. He doesn't, bullets aren't passing from Nipsey and going into other people. He's pointing, bullets fly straight. He's pointing the gun and he's hitting who he can to either take them out, and if they run away and escape, good for them. And that's what happened with two of the four of them. They ran away and escaped. Sherman was hit. Bridgeball wasn't. But you gotta appreciate the space between these two cars too. It's narrow. And he knew that. He knew as he walked up on this group that there were other people there and that they were all vulnerable, and he was going to get the jump on all of them. He sized it up from the time he turned that corner and walked along that sidewalk in front of the storefront, and carried out his plan to a T. Was able to do all of this damage and escape and get back down to Long Beach for a couple of days safely. Direct the ineffectual act. That's all an attempt is. Direct the ineffectual act. The shooting. Let's see if I can highlight. So Holder is here. It's a little dark here. Let me go back. Okay, you can see him walking between the two cars here. Now that's what I was talking about. Nipsey is the first to react. Let's take a look at that. Everybody's stationary looking, at least Nipsey is looking directly at Holder. Nobody knows what's up at this point. And then we see Nipsey's arm come up. And then he drops. Sherman is facing the group. After Nipsey drops, he takes one step and then turns. He gets hit right after Nipsey drops. That's all an attempt is. Direct but ineffectual act. the shooting. Let's see if I can highlight. So Holder is here, it's a little dark here. Let me go back. Okay, you can see him walking between the two cars here. Now that's what I was talking about. Nipsey is the first to react. Let's take a look at that. Everybody's stationary looking, at least Nipsey is looking directly at Holder. Nobody knows what's up at this point. And then we see Nipsey's arm come up. And then he drops. Sherman is facing the group. After Nipsey drops, he takes one step and then turns. He gets hit right after Nipsey drops. Lathan still has his back up against the car. This is Lathan. This is Rimball. His back is still up against the car. So Nipsey's already down. Sherman is turning to run. And then Lathan tries to run. And then he gets shot. And he drops. Red Paul is able to get out of it. If all he wanted to do was shoot Nipsey Hussle, he was so close he could reach out and touch him. If all he wanted to do was shoot Nipsey Hussle, he could have just shot Nipsey Hussle.
He wanted Nipsey to
And
finish
that's why we
it.
charge
He walked
these
up on him, he could have headshot
murder.
him.
Again, they're also charged with assault with firearms.